glad you're here with me today. I'm remaking my avocado soap. This soap is more than a remake. It's actually going to be a remake of a remake. Now, what do I mean by this? Well, I did do a short just before this video that you may have seen of me chopping up the soap. Yes, this soap. And I'm going to explain to you what went wrong with this soap, why I had to remake the soap, and also discuss the wonderful soap that I ended up with after all was said and done. So, to begin with, I started out making this like I make all my soaps, okay, or all my avocado soaps. And I've made avocado soap probably 200 times, and I'm not exaggerating that. I make it several times a year, and I've been making it for about 20 years or so. I don't know. Not on YouTube, but throughout my life I've been making avocado soap, and I've changed it up a few times here and there. But I made a big miscalculation when making this one. I got distracted, and what I did is I forgot to add in the avocado oil that I added to the avocado to my overall oils. But that's not the only mistake I made. I forgot to add in the fat from the actual avocado. That's right. Avocado is about 72 to 75% water, and about 15% is fat. And then the rest is just proteins and other things. But the vast majority of it's water. So I did figure in the water amount, but I don't know how I got distracted, but I just forgot that, because I'm adding 6 avocados here, okay? So these are about 12-ounce avocados. You figure about 15% of those is fat, and you multiply that by 6 avocados, and well, you can see how much extra fat that is, in addition to the avocado oil that I blended in with it to make it more fluid. And when I did my calculations for my soap, I just did my regular calculation like I did for any other soap, and forgot to add back in the fat from the avocados and that additional avocado oil that I had added. And this was already going to be a super fatted soap of 15%. Well, at this point, I actually went all close to 30% super fat, which is way over what the lye could saponify in this. And I'll tell you what happened. I'll go ahead and tell you in advance, because I didn't film this part because it was too shocking at the time when I found it. When I set this soap up to cure overnight, as I do with all my soaps, I was in the other room, but I kept hearing dripping, like a dripping faucet, but heavier. I'm serious. So I walked into my soap room, and I could actually see oil pouring out of the mold. It was just dripping down the sides of the mold onto the floor and puddling, and there must have been 2 cups of oil on the floor. It seemed like, when oil spreads out, it looks like a lot more than it actually is. And I was just mortified, right? So I tried to clean it up as best I could. Then I took the lid off the top of the soap, and it was like a lake, and it had caved in the center. Now, a lot of people would see this, and if I didn't know what had happened, there would be an assumption that, oh, you just didn't mix your you didn't mix your lye solution properly or long enough. And that would normally be the case if you see a lot of oil on top of your soap. But this wasn't the case here. What happened basically is the lye saponified what it could underneath, and as it did, it pushed the additional oil up to the top where it started pooling up at the top because it couldn't saponify it. Because everything under that pool of oil, as I found the next day, was hard. It was just great soap. And I actually tested the pH. Everything there was okay. Wasn't ready to use. Obviously, it would need to cure. But this wasn't a matter of a problem with lye. It was a problem with way too much fat for the lye to actually saponify. And normally I do superfat all my soaps a minimum of 5 to 7%. And if I'm making like a coconut soap, coconut oil only soap, of course, I'll superfat up to 25%, not an issue. Or making salt bars, again, that's a soap where you really need to add a lot of superfat, right? That being said, I've never superfatted a mixed oil or butter soap like this. More than 9%, I think, is the top that I have done. And of course, this was an accident. This was unintentional. But I really went over the top with this one. And again, once I realized what I had done, when I saw that oil, I was like, wait. Because I have made mistakes with soaps in the past where I didn't stir them properly, got distracted or whatever. That's obvious, and you can tell when that happens if you get a false trace or any of those things. And this was none of that. This was simply a matter of adding way too much oil than the lye could saponify. Now, had I added the right amount of oils or the right amount of lye, then I would have had extra soap, poured that in another mold. That would have been no issue at all. And actually, with this soap, I ended up with a little extra and poured a few of my hearts, which are great for my grab bags and things like that. But I will tell you that I've never encountered anything like this before, and I sure hope that here I am adding in all that oil and fat that's going to basically ruin this soap, right? And it's just a simple miscalculation, and it can happen to any of us. I have been soaping over 50 years. There are people out there who may watch this video, who are just starting soaping or have just been soaping for a year or two. This is a great lesson for you, if nothing else, is go back and double check. If you're not 100% sure, of course, I thought I was 100% sure when I made it. I was like, doop-de-doop-de-doo, everything's great, this is going to be wonderful. And it just did not occur to me that I had overlooked this. And never. It just wasn't something on my... I was like, this is going to be just another great soap, like my Avocado Deluxe. Now, one area where this one's different is I'm using donkey milk in this one rather than goat milk. And I'm very happy about that because I've actually had people ask me for another donkey milk soap, and I had the donkey milk on hand, and this is a good time of the year to ask for that, actually. So it was really nice to be able to provide that. And the only problem is that, see here, everything looks great. I was like, this is going to be a lovely soap. It's going to be right in line with all my other avocado soaps. But it just wasn't, no matter what the appearances are. And what's funny, and I will share this with you all too, is that we can all get complacent, okay? And that's not a judgment call. Any of us in any job, in any career, in pretty much anywhere in life, we can become complacent. Complacent meaning that we can just take things for granted, that things are going to just be the way they are, that we don't have to think about them, and we can just go on and be successful without a problem. And I'm here to tell you that no matter how many times you've done something, you can make a mistake, right? You can do something that will cause you to have to rethink the way you do things. What did this teach me? Well, I will do this going forward, that anytime I'm adding anything that adds additional fats, but believe me, I was using now here I am actually sucking up all that extra oil that was on the top. I did want to just video this part of it. And the soap underneath is hard, but it is caved in. I will tell you that the center of the soap is a good inch below the outer edges. That's how much this extra oil. You can even see the little holes there. That's where the oil was coming up out of the soap. So this was just a mess, and I knew I couldn't reuse this soap because it's still, even after sucking off all this additional soap, when I cut these bars, they are greasy, oily bars of soap. Here when I'm cutting it, there actually, I can see drops of oil, and so this is just something I had to do, so I just decided I was just going to rebatch it. That being said though, this is where I was going with this thought, is that yes, I go by the same recipes. I have a few variations of my recipes. But what this has taught me is that when I'm varying from the norm, that I need to remind myself of things that I need to do. So if I'm adding additional fats, like with avocado in this case, or anything that adds more water, and there are a lot of things that do add more water, that I will take that into consideration and redo what I need to do, recalculate what I need to recalculate. And that's really the main thing that I'm going to remind myself of, because obviously I needed reminding. I've never made this mistake before. Chances are I probably won't ever make it again. This was a great lesson, but still, I'm not going to take that for granted. I'm not going to become complacent about this. This is a good lesson for me, and hopefully it's a lesson for you as well. That's really what I desire more than anything else from what I do, is to teach you. And there are those who may think that you can only teach by showing the successful way to do things, and I could not agree more. I think that we can all learn from other people's mistakes. Look at politics right now. Look at just our current state of politics, and think about them for, I don't know, any point in history. Mistakes are made, sometimes huge mistakes. And the hope is always that the next one that comes into office, or those that follow, have learned from those mistakes so we don't make them again, right? Hopefully we never again live in a world where we can treat our fellow citizens as slaves, or where we can treat our fellow citizens as less than human. Surely we have learned from those mistakes we've made in the past so that we don't make those errors again, right? Anyway, and listen, this is just soap making, and it's not to be compared with politics, anything like that. I don't mean that, but I guess what I mean is that you can learn from the errors of the past. And this is something, and I'm going to tell you that the soap that came out afterwards actually gave me a great idea going forward with certain types of soap, that I'm going to remake them intentionally, that because this soap actually came out maybe not as pretty. It's not going to have any swirls. It's not going to have any I could have even with this hot process method, although I am adding this beautiful donkey milk yogurt to it. It's not going to be as lovely to look at. It's just a green block of soap. But what I can tell you about it, it is a denser soap. It is very much like a triple milled soap from France, which I have used in the past, which is basically a soap that has been made, remilled, and reprocessed, and sometimes 3 times. That's a triple milled soap. And I understand the advantage of that, because what you end up with is what I consider a richer, a denser, hopefully a longer lasting, but also a more luxurious bar of soap. One that's both conditioning and cleansing. And this soap absolutely has all of those qualities. And, while it is a remake, nothing went to waste. Even those oils, like I said, except for what spilled out on the floor, the soap that I was able to capture with the turkey baster and suck up and put into that side cup, that I will reuse in a different soap because it's got the essential oils in it, so I have to reuse it in a similar type soap. But it's a wonderful, wonderful bar of soap. They smell terrific. I did add, because I was adding the additional yogurt and the water that I added to this, I did add a little bit more of the lemongrass and lavender essential oil just to make sure that that wasn't lost in the cook. And it absolutely is not. They smell tremendous. And like I said, they may not look like much. They're rather plain, but they are going to be great bars of soap. And I just want you to know that you yourself, even if these sort of things happen, you can come back from a mistake and have a successful item. So that's really what this whole video is about, is that and I know I've done these videos before. It's because I make a lot of screw ups. It's true, and one thing I like about myself, if I can say this, is that I am very self-aware, that I know what my faults are, that I know what my attributes are, and I'm equally appreciative of both of them. I'm glad that I can recognize when I do something very well, and I'm glad that I can recognize when I do something wrong, right? Because if you're not able to recognize your flaws, how can you improve? If you don't know that you're walking down the wrong path, how will you ever get on the right path, right? That's really, in my mind, the best advice that I can give any of you is to just embrace your flaws, embrace the things that maybe you or maybe others look at as imperfect or not beautiful. Embrace those things. Make them your beauty. There was a time when people would look at a mole on a face and go, ooh. Then Cindy Crawford came along. Elizabeth Taylor before that, who had a big freckle on her face, right? They came along and that became a symbol of beauty. Something that was once considered a flaw, right? Something that needed to be fixed. There was a time where if you didn't have a 4-inch waist as a woman, you were considered unattractive. We've moved past that now. One of the most beautiful and wonderful people in the world, Lizzo, is far from that. But look at the success that she is, and look what an inspiration she is. I know I'm babbling and that I'm preaching right now, so I'm going to stop. But I want to thank you all for visiting with me. I hope you enjoyed at least some of this, or maybe you got a laugh out of some of my silliness. But I want to thank you all for being a part of the channel. You are wonderful, and I'm so thrilled that you're here. Have a terrific day and a wonderful weekend, and I'll talk to you all again soon. Goodbye.